It never gets old, huh? Nope. Kinda makes you wanna just burst into song? Yep. I love the mountains.
I love the clear blue skies.
I love the breweries.
I love the market nights.
I love Lonsdale. And all its sights and sounds.
Boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada.
I love exchanges. I love the currencies. I love exchanges.
I love exchanges.
I love exchanges. And more exchanges.
Boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada.
I love exchanges. I love exchanges. I love exchanges. I love exchanges.
I love exchanges. I love exchanges. Boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada, boom diada.
I love Lonsdale. For anyone who's grown up on the North Shore of Vancouver, it's been a city center, a gateway to downtown, and just a place for people to hang out. But let's just say my relationship with the shopping experience, well, it's complicated. We have an alarming lack of commercial diversity on this street. And one of the most prominent examples is the shocking amount of currency exchanges. I noticed once when I was out getting groceries that I'd walked past a couple and I thought, well, how many are there actually? And I counted 5 currency exchanges on Lonsdale. Now, isn't that way too many for one street? Well, if you don't think it's too many, it's because I lied. There are 10 currency exchanges on Lonsdale. Still not with me? I lied again. There are 22 currency exchanges on Lonsdale, taking up storefronts, not contributing to the vibe, and making the street a place for people. So while I was doing that research, another pattern emerged, and that was dentists and hair or nail salons. These ones are easier to miss because they're normally quite nondescript and they kind of just blend into the background around them. Okay, so I know you want to get some numbers, and trust me, when I first saw them, I was shocked. No lying this time, there are 38 hair and nail salons on Lonsdale. 38. And I don't even want to say how many dentists there are. Okay, wait. I know I said no lying, but I'm gonna have to ramp you up to how many dentists there are. Are there 10 dentists? That's plenty, right? No, there's more. Are there 20 dentists? Double it. No. Are there 40 dentists on Lonsdale? No, not quite. There are 56 dentists on Lonsdale Avenue. We have 116 options for 3 types of businesses within a 5-minute drive of each other. What are we doing?
Five years ago, the city of North Van announced a brewery district, which has since become a fantastic success. People go to hang out and support local business and don't have to leave the North Shore for a nice evening. At the same time, the rest of Lonsdale has become a services district, where we have fewer and fewer interesting businesses, the types which Commercial Drive or Main Street are celebrated for.
So speaking of Commercial Drive and Main Street, how about we compare Lonsdale to them based on the 3 types of businesses we just discussed?
Let's start with dentists. So clearly there are quite a lot on Lonsdale, maybe a few more than on the other 2 streets, but there's still quite a few on both. Okay, how about salons? Okay, well there's actually quite a lot on both of these streets as well, particularly on Main Street. Alright, now let's finally show the currency exchanges. You already know what Lonsdale looks like, so let's load up Main. I said load up Main. Wait, that's it? Okay, well how about commercial? But hold on a second, you're telling me this is all they have? What's worse is this is not even to scale. Let me fix that real quick. As you can see, Lonsdale is being absolutely dominated by these businesses. Looking at all this shaded space, I can't help but feel like Lonsdale is underutilized. I mean, look how many more currency exchanges we could fit in here.
So you might be asking, why so many currency exchanges and why Lonsdale? Well, typically a currency exchange business is where you trade Canadian dollars for euros, USD, or other foreign currencies for travel. However, the money service businesses, or MSBs, on Lonsdale have a different focus. Central Lonsdale hosts one of the largest Canadian Iranian communities, and many of these people depend on MSBs to send or receive money from Iran due to the swift sanctions against Iranian banks. For those of us accustomed to stable banking, it's hard to imagine being suddenly locked out of our finances, but this is actually a reality that many new Canadians face. And so it's not hard to see where the skepticism breeds about these businesses. I mean, their websites don't exactly inspire confidence, but I'll leave the oversight to the overseers. Just to be clear, I'm not here to pick on currency exchanges. I think that dentists and salons are actually more out of control on Lonsdale. But people do deserve to hear the context around currency exchanges, which I wish I'd known sooner. I also think it's harder to overlook the currency exchanges because, well, most people have teeth and hair. One downside of having salons and dentists in street-level storefronts is that they tend to wrap the windows because patients require privacy. And while that's a good thing, it kind of deadens the feel of the window. It might as well be a solid wall. In Alan Jacobs' legendary book, Great Streets, he outlines qualities of what makes a street a pleasant place to be. And one of those things is transparency, which would be, say, the windows in a shop which bring the outside to the inside, the line between private property and public space. And in a great street, you wouldn't have wrapped windows like this one. So how do we switch things up for Lonsdale?
Other cities are experiencing similar issues. For example, West Van has a list of business types which are limited to no more than 20% of each block at street level in the Ambleside and Dunderave commercial areas.
Recently, West Van City Council decided to add currency exchanges to that list of businesses, which already includes nail and hair salons, in order to promote more vibrancy for the street. Just across town, New West has a similar problem, except with dentists. This April, Councillor Nakagawa made a motion to prioritize community-supporting businesses and organizations.
This is something that we're hearing a lot of in the community. We've had some new ground-level retail open up, and people get very excited about what it's going to be, and it's always inevitably a dentist office.
New West's angle is different. Councillor Nakagawa believes that the conditions for the dominance of health-based businesses come from the construction of the units which they occupy.
And so I think the problem is with the building of the units. If a unit is stratified, if it's $1 million to purchase, if it's an empty shell when it's adopted by the business, if tenants have to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into fitting that space to be appropriate for them, it naturally dictates what kind of business can go into that space. If you are a small business, making homemade kombucha, you can't invest $300,000 to outfit a space and take the kind of chance that we want to give small businesses in our community.
So her motion suggested for the city to review and refresh current policies relating to ground-level retail to ensure that they're responsive to current market forces, and to develop a policy to ensure that future ground-level retail spaces in new development are being built to prioritize community-supporting businesses and organizations in alignment with the retail strategy. They noticed that they're building spaces that only health businesses can afford.
This emphasizes a little bit on both the planning of new mixed-use buildings, especially, and making sure we're building the right kinds of units and we're building the right kinds of incentives. When we are building that the proper kinds of units are built in mixed-use development, that's great. But I think it's also, there's something in here about zoning tools as well, and how that might create, our zoning tools can create incentives to sort of shift the existing use a little more subtly, maybe a little more long-term, but not necessarily in just the new buildings that are being built. So, but I think there is room in this to do all of that, and so I will support it.
Lonsdale's problems are a little bit like if New West and West Van did a fusion dance. It'll be a real balancing act to get things right.
Like in New West, there are a lot of buildings coming up on or just off of Lonsdale, and those new retail spaces will likely be too big or too expensive or unsuitable for a small business to move in. There are also old single-story buildings on Lonsdale, like in Ambleside or Dunderave, which make some sections of the street more like West Van.
At City Hall, the overrepresentation of MSBs on Lonsdale has not gone unnoticed.
Considering the fact that probably this week alone I've had I don't know how many emails on the number of money marts that we have in this area, and they really do not create a great street or healthy style. So I'm not exactly sure how you're searching out businesses.
Having so many currency exchanges that provide niche financial services and do not generate a steady flow of customer traffic does not align with our goals of street vibrancy and business diversity.
Councillor Shariari put forward a motion to limit how many storefronts can contain currency exchanges. by using possibly zoning, alongside an outright cap on how many exchanges can operate within the city of North Vancouver.
If Council passes this motion tonight, staff will use available tools in the toolbox, including assessing bylaw measures such as Retail Service Group 1A to maintain and enhance the vibrancy of our streets and central Lonsdale in particular. In addition, I would like to see staff use all the tools available in the toolbox to recommend ways we can to stop any future growth, and by setting a limit on the overall number of these currency exchanges in the city.
When he refers to Retail Service Group 1A, he's pointing out that the city already has an amended zoning type of Retail Service Group 1, which doesn't list finance offices, business offices, and banks, which could be a tool to restrict currency exchanges.
Criticism of the motion came in the way that it singles out one specific type of business, and that we are already working on commercial diversity and vibrancy in the Great Streets project, which the city is already working on for Lonsdale.
I think this motion really does single out one singular type of business, that being the currency exchange, over others. I'm not exactly sure why we would want to focus on one business versus, say, another business that's in abundance. And to me, the focus here should be less of a matter of limiting the number of currency exchange businesses, but rather more about looking at increasing the vibrancy, the diversity, the streetscape animation along Lonsdale in support of the other businesses along the corridor.
Our mayor commented that it's not really for City Council to pick winners and losers and choose businesses. It's about zoning and encouraging a vibrant community. The motion was passed 4-3, so a split decision obviously, and I found myself kind of agreeing with everyone here. I think that just outright limiting currency exchanges is kind of treating a symptom rather than the problem. And it's just a holdover solution until the next thing starts to dominate and we have to limit that. If we have to keep passing motion after motion to limit different types of businesses as they begin to dominate, then there is clearly an underlying issue that needs to be looked at first instead. I believe that with the upcoming Great Streets project, we should be focused more on creating a nurturing environment where small businesses can survive and thrive rather than playing whack-a-mole with the stuff that we don't want. There are things to learn from both New West and West Van's problems right now, and I feel that with the Great Streets project right around the corner for Lonsdale, it is the best time possible for us to make a difference and have Lonsdale be a place to hang out for the coming years. From New West, we can borrow the idea of being a bit more specific about the retail spaces that come up in new developments. When a new development comes up, there are very rarely those tiny little spaces that our treasured hole-in-the-wall restaurants exist in. As Councillor Nakagawa said, the spaces we build pretty much dictate the businesses that can move in. From West Van, we've already borrowed the idea for limiting the amount of storefronts which can contain these types of businesses. Because after all, a business that's open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. doesn't really add to the vibrancy of the street and would be a lot better tucked away on a second floor or in the back. Now, I am no urban planner, so realistically, the only thing I'm able to do here is complain. But I had a couple ideas and I'm going to share them. I'm of the opinion that it's more sustainable to treat this problem with the carrot as opposed to the stick. And so we should be focusing on making an environment that small businesses can survive and thrive in, rather than just trying to crush down the ones that we don't want in here. If we want dentists, nail salons, hair salons to be on second and third floors, then we need second and third floors for them to occupy. And most of the buildings on Lonsdale are single floors. And all of the medical buildings that we have, they're already packed out. Could we build some higher density commercial spaces with second and third floors to allow them to move up to where they want to be? Could we offer more tax incentives for the small businesses we want to be on Lonsdale? Could we do first refusal, rent controls, the option to move back into a densified building for small businesses that have existed here a long time and we want to keep here? I have no idea. All I know is that what we're doing right now isn't quite working. If there ever was a time to shape the future of Lonsdale, it is now. We are at a crossroads where we can either allow this situation to continue to fester, or we can be proactive about demanding the spaces that make our community better. The potential is there, so maybe the secret to leveling up Lonsdale is to take some businesses a level up. Say cheese.